I want to welcome you to Senior Marketing Specialist Presents Protect Your Business During the Open Enrollment Period. As we mentioned before, my name is Olivia Richardson. I'm joined today by Sadie Palmer. And something that's really interesting, this webinar, again, for those of you who are just joining us, this webinar used to be all about just success during quarter one. Mm-hmm. And what we found out during OEP of 2022 was that the best offense is actually a really good defense. Mm-hmm. And that is true. Exactly what we're doing during OEP, is to make sure that the book of business that you work so hard to gain all of 2022, all of AEP stays on your books. 2022 OEP was one for the ages. It was the biggest OEP to date that had movement, people leaving their plan, people joining a new plan, people going back to a Medicare supplement. And so we just wanted to know, like, going into this, but as we get started, we'd love to hear from you guys. A, why are you joining today? What are you hoping to gain out of today's webinar? And two, what was, like, if you could sum up your AEP in 1 to 3 words, how was your AEP? Because what we hear from the industry is one word: stable. Yeah. Not a lot of movement this AEP, not a lot of changes, a lot of increase in benefits, not a lot of mass exits. So just interested on, like, what can we expect going to this OEP?
Yeah. I think that we can expect OEPs from now on. I feel like in the past, OEP was kind of something that you were aware of. You just kind of knew it was part of the job. I'll worry about it whenever I relax after AEP and all that sort of stuff. And like you said, the past couple years, and I feel like I predict that OEP is going to be something that you're going to have to prepare for earlier and earlier, especially because we see people not joining med subs right off the bat. They're joining Medicare Advantage plans right off the bat. So there's going to be some changes, more people on those Medicare Advantages when they first join Medicare. So I don't know, this is probably something that we need to get into the habit of making sure you're thinking of before it's happening.
I'll just say, the work's not done. Right. December 8th came, the work is not done. Yeah. Make sure we're prepped for January 1st. So let's jump into it. First and foremost, what is OEP? I will tell you this, during OEP, we get a million questions because you think you know what it is, and then you get into it, you're like, oh wait, I can't do that, I can't do this. So OEP, just keep in mind, guys, there are 3 types of OEPs. There's an OEP for Medicare supplements, which is the first 6 months of your Medicare Part B. There's an OEP called OEP New, which is 3 months from a person receiving their Medicare Advantage plan for the first time. And then there's the OEP we're talking about, which runs from January 1st to March 31st. It only affects individuals who have a Medicare Advantage plan on January 1st. So anybody who has a med sup with a PDP on January 1st doesn't affect them. Literally nothing happens for them. Now, it doesn't have to be a new Medicare Advantage on January 1st. It could be the same plan they had in 2022 rolled over into 2023. They still had a Medicare Advantage plan on January 1st, so they still apply or can qualify for the OEP here as well.
One thing to keep in mind, sometimes people ask, well, where does Medicare supplements come into this? Is this a GI period for Medicare supplements if I want to get off of my Medicare Advantage onto med subs? Like she said, this is not a GI period. No. This has really nothing to do with Medicare supplements at all. It's all about fixing and kind of correcting your Medicare Advantage plans and leaving your PDP if you choose so.
Yeah. So keep in mind here, it does allow for one more switch. What that means is, again, those individuals that we talk about, they have the ability to go into a new Medicare Advantage plan. They also have the ability to leave a Medicare Advantage plan and go onto a standalone drug plan. They still have to go through underwriting for that med sup, so keep that in mind. Last thing to keep in mind, what makes OEP a little unique is that you cannot market OEP. That means that you can't do a big campaign saying, hey guys, it's OEP. You have one more chance to move. Come talk to me with questions, things like that. So you cannot advertise the fact that it is OEP. You can educate that it's OEP. It has to come to, what are you saying to your current book of business? You can talk about OEP with your current book of business. You're not advertising it, you're educating. But you can't do a prospecting campaign or a lead campaign trying to get new clients with the guise of it's OEP. Come talk to me.
I know that one thing some people here in our office advise people is just think about it as like marketing for AEP and, like, you know, the early months before you can mention AEP. How are you marketing them to get them to understand that you were here for them to talk to without actually mentioning AEP? The same sort of thing, just throughout OEP.
It's just OEP. This is a little different. So what are some challenges? We kind of hit into this a little bit earlier, but there are some significant challenges going into why am I not good at this? Okay, there is a button. It's a button to push. And I said no thank you to the button. I'm gonna make it
tech
hard.
is hard.
Shouldn't be. It wasn't. It wasn't that time. That was just me. So some challenges. We talked about this a little bit, but why is OEP? Why are we saying like you need to go on the defense during OEP versus trying to get out there and just like dominate during OEP? And these are some challenges. Number one, 2023. If you guys are familiar with Medicare Cafe, Karen and I talked about this yesterday. It's Thursday. I talked about it Tuesday.
Yeah.
Lots of changes are coming to 2023. Probably one of the biggest Medicare shift years that we've seen. And I'm not talking product changes. The products are incredibly stable. I'm talking about rules and regulation changes going into 2023. Two of them that you really need to be aware of. Number one is the Inflation Reduction Act, which is basically going on through 2025 and 2030. And essentially what that is, it is an attempt to basically lower the cost of prescription medications and in fact eventually put a maximum out of pocket on Part D and prescription medications going into this year. This is the first round of it. What's happening in 2023, as we all know, if you work during AEP, is basically your insulins are capped at $35 this year. Now, two reasons why that's a struggle or a challenge during OEP. Number one is that if you were using like Medicare.gov or other enrollment tools, you may have quoted insulin incorrectly because those enrollment tools still had the retail or the insurance, the MOOP version of what those drugs cost. And so if you didn't know to go back and quote it separately and do another quote for the insulin, you may have quoted incorrectly. So that's one thing to keep in mind, that you want to make sure that those insulins are going to be ran correctly during OEP. The second thing to keep in mind, especially with these insulins and this Inflation Reduction Act, is that carriers get about a 90-day grace period into where they actually can continue to charge what the original cost of that insulin is during that period, right? And you're just like, wait, what? They're not going to get charged at $35? Here's the kicker. The carriers get that grace period to do so, knowing that after the fact, after that grace period, they have to go and reimburse those clients. So your clients ultimately are only going to pay the $35, but your clients are going to be very confused.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, you put me on this Medicare Advantage plan that only is going to charge me $35 for this medicine. Now it's not, I'm going to switch.
Yeah.
It's not true. It's not accurate, but it's misinformation out there and your clients are going to get confused. So a really positive change that could absolutely affect and make your OEP a little bit more of a headache. Follow up with that. The next thing that we need to talk about changes is going to be not so much as much of a change as anything else, but just knowing that if you have a client that didn't enroll into Part B when they were eligible for it, maybe they waited some time, they have to enroll in Part B during the general enrollment period, which is also January 1st to March 31st. Their Part B effective date used to start in July. It now starts the next month. So know that that's going to be affecting your quarter one as well, is that you're going to be able to, it's going to be a little bit more urgency right now because people can have that Part B effective date start the next month.
Absolutely, yeah.
So just some things, anytime that there's changes means opportunity, it means confusion. So just be aware and being ready to talk to your clients with that.
And this is kind of a good time. You'll hear this theme throughout this, but OEP is a really good time, especially this year with what she just talked about, to really show your advisor side. This is really time for you to shine and show that you're different than other agents. You didn't just make the sale and then you pieced out. You're here for whenever things are hard. You're here for whenever things are confusing. So you also have to make sure that you let them know that you're going to be checking up on them and all that sort of stuff as well.
Absolutely. Also, keep in mind, the second point on here is plan benefits aren't always a smooth process. We hear that all the time of carriers like, we're trying to make this easier to use. I'm talking about gym membership, grocery benefits, eye care, teeth care, about to say mouth care, teeth care, mouth care, all those extra like bells and whistles. Here's the thing. Here's the problem with that. Is that because these bells and whistles, especially these last years, have gotten outrageous, like unlimited dental, all these things. When you sell a plan, and a huge buying factor of getting that plan is those extra benefits, and then your clients aren't able to utilize those, I can't figure out how to utilize those extra benefits, that plan lost all its value. Even if it's still a solid plan, good for the prescriptions, they don't get to use it the way that they want to. That plan has no value, and there's no reason why they're not going to switch during that time. So making sure that you're teaching your clients during this time, challenges during OEP, plans are not going to be easy. We'll talk about like when to teach them, things like that, but just know it is a challenge. These benefits may not be easy to use. That completely drops the value of those plans, making it no loyalty to that plan, less loyalty to you, and more likely to switch during OEP.
For sure. And the people who have been on those plans for a while, and then one of their benefits changes in the way that you are able to use, that's going to be really confusing even for the people who've been on the plan for a while. So just keep those people in mind as well.
The last thing is understand call centers and marketing continue to cause issues. There are some updates going into what CMS is making these commercials, and they, what these commercials are going to be doing January 1st. You're going to see a lot less of the Joe Namath, these really big Medicare Advantage commercials. You are going to see less of them, but you're going to see more of the ones that are approved. You'll see more of the same ones, less of the random ones, I should say. So just knowing that even though all of us are going to follow the rules, there's still going to be confusion in the market of you still have time to buy, and they're going to be like, wait, I thought my agent told me I couldn't move after December 7th. You're telling me there's still time? Yeah, let me give you a call. So just knowing that that's just the nature of the beast. There's still going to be issues with call centers and marketing during OEP.
For sure. And that's one thing to keep in mind whenever you are working with people for the first time. That's why it's so important to continue to follow up and show that you're there for them, because then that solidifies that you are their point of contact whenever it comes to insurance. You'll build that trust, and they'll call before making decisions, hopefully. So yeah, all of this sort of stuff, following up, all these sort of things, play into their trust with you, and then it can eliminate some of those scary things out there, like the weird marketing. Am I going to lose them because they see a commercial or something like that?
So let's jump into, so we've gone over like what is OEP, why is OEP a defensive move versus a offensive move. Let's talk about like, how do you make the most? How do you thrive during OEP? Survive, and how do you thrive? Number one, in every single webinar or training that Sadie and I do for the next 3 months, this is going to be brought up because it is the number one saver of your AEP business, and that is to do a quarter one follow-up, making sure that everybody you saw during AEP, and more importantly, everybody you didn't see during AEP, has at least a significant touch point with you. It doesn't have to be a face-to-face appointment, doesn't have to be a virtual appointment. It can just be a phone call. And these are some of the things that we say, like, this is what you need to discuss during that quarter one follow-up appointment. And the reason why, again, just some things that Sadie mentioned, I just want to reiterate why follow-up appointments work. It's one, like you said, you set the expectation that I'm not here just to write a policy and get the hell out of Dodge. I'm here to I am your Medicare navigator. I'm here throughout the entire process. Let me make sure we establish that relationship and those expectations. The other reason is that you completely eliminate competition. Think about like your dentist office. Your dentist office sets up a follow-up appointment every 6 months. So you don't have to question, do I really need to go to the dentist? Do I really need to set an appointment? Do I really need to take this call? No, you already have the appointment set in motion. You're going to go to it. But number two is if I have a dentist appointment coming up and I start getting a toothache, or I'm worried that I have a cavity coming up, I'm not going to then call my friends and be like, hey, do you have any good dentists you can refer me to? I'm going to say, oh, I have an appointment coming up here in a few months. I'll just move that up and get in.
Yeah.
It really does completely eliminate your competition because they have an expected appointment with you.
Yeah. All of these things on this list are going to be things that make you referable. These are going to be the things that other agents aren't doing. These are going to be the things that make your clients say, wow, and tell people about it, write reviews, all that sort of stuff. This is really where the extra steps, your real value as their agent and their point of contact for their insurance. This is where this all comes in. Really.
Where the value. You did the job and during AEP. This is where you provide value.
Exactly.
Retention, everything.
Yes.
So educate on next steps. What does that mean? What I imagine, like when you're educating somebody on the next steps, it's making sure like, hey, this is what you can expect throughout the year. Just a reminder, this is when you're likely to go into your donut hole was your drugs are going to get more expensive. Make sure that you've gotten your insurance cards. Make sure you've gotten your flex cards. I'm going to sign you up for my newsletter, so expect to get an email or a piece of mail from me every 3 months with just some fun facts. I'm going to go ahead and get you signed up for my Facebook page so you can stay up to date with what's going on in the office. It's all of that just extra stuff. Does that affect their plans? No, but it keeps you interwoven in their lives and in their decision making. So making sure you set the expectations for what that next entire year is going to look like.
Yes, that way follow-ups aren't, sometimes follow-ups can feel weird. They can feel forced. Yes. You might feel like, I'm being too salesy, I'm coming off too strong, like sort of thing. But letting them know, hey, I'm going to continue to follow up with you just to make sure everything's working okay. That takes that away. They can expect it. They don't feel like you're just trying to sell them something. They knew from the beginning you were going to keep in contact with them.
The next thing here is what can you do in a quarter one follow-up? Cross-sell what you couldn't during AEP. This only works, not only works, but it works best if you set the expectation for that follow-up appointment. So we know that we can't usually talk cancer insurance. You can't talk final expense. You can't talk annuities. You can't talk anything outside of what's on the scope of appointment during a Medicare Advantage or PDP appointment. But at the end of that appointment, or you call them up right now and say, hey, you know, because you signed that scope of appointment, you remember that? There's so many holes in your coverages that we couldn't talk about because we talked about this type of coverage. Why don't we get in my office sometime in the first quarter, and we can look at your coverage holistically? That's the phone call that you make. Get them in your office and you cross-sell what you couldn't during AEP. Again, one of the biggest things I'll mention right now, Chalin, our compliance officer, he does an incredible job of like looking at the industry. One of the biggest things you'll need to talk about cross-selling during the first quarter is going to be hospital indemnity benefits and home health care or short-term care. I won't bore you with the details, but long story short, the people are, when we used to say people don't recover in the hospital, they recover at home. That's actually not true anymore. Nursing homes and short-term care facilities are overran. They're overpopulated. They don't have beds for people to recover in there. And you can't find home health care nurses and home health care aides anymore. So people don't have a means to recover outside the hospital. So we're seeing that hospital stays are getting longer. So they need hospital indemnity plans to offset those copays. What we used to say they'll be in the hospital for 3 days, 5 days max. It's a lot longer than that now. Same thing with you need to make sure they have a short-term care insurance or home insurance to brighten their horizons of like who can they see? Can they go to someone who doesn't accept Medicare? Because the Medicare people are full right now. So great opportunity to talk about those products.
Also to mention cross-selling, the more products, it's just fact, the more products people have in their portfolio, the more products they have with you. We call them sticky clients. The more stuck to you they are, the less likely they are to leave. So that's, we have full webinars about that.
We call it like the Apple effect. Like every electronic I buy is an Apple product because I have all of my stuff through Apple. They all work together. The same thing works with clients and their insurance.
Exactly.
Checking after the first pharmacy visit. This is particularly especially for your insulin people. You know, after like the first couple weeks of the year, make sure you call them and say, hey, just want to make sure that you had a good experience with your new drug plan, making sure that your insulin was that $35 cap so that you can like kind of cut it off whenever like it doesn't go as planned, because a lot of times it doesn't. So just checking with them to ask them specifically, hey, you know, you've probably filled your prescriptions by now. I want to make sure that your Part D plan worked exactly how you wanted it to.
And this is a great time to also bring up CleverRx if you haven't already. Kind of see how it went, see if there's some savings that you can have after they fill that first prescription.
That's a great point. Just more value add, more value add. And last but not least, set up their benefits. We've mentioned it several times now, but find the gym that takes their plan. Get them a dentist, set up that dentist appointment right then and there. You know, teach them how to use their grocery benefits, making sure that because again, it's not always the easiest to use those benefits, but they bought the plan because of those benefits. So make sure they're using them and can see value in that plan.
Yes, exactly.
Next, another thing that you can do during OEP is broadcast education. I used to call this seminars, but like, it's 2023 at this point. You know, seminars, I'm not going to say are outdated. Seminars still very much work. There's just so many other channels of broadcasting your message. So I call this broadcast education, not OEP. You are not saying, hey guys, it's OEP. Let's talk about this. No, you need to continue your marketing, your 3-pronged marketing system that we talk about. You need to continue that 3-pronged marketing system going into the new year, but you need to make sure that you are front of mind for every insurance need. So if they have a question, they don't even think, where do I go to find this? They're like, oh, I see Sadie all the time. She's always at the senior center. She's on that calendar. I follow her on Facebook, so I see her videos that she's doing. So continuing to educate. Again, there is a difference between marketing OEP and educating about OEP. So just be conscious of that. If you guys have questions on that, please let us know. We can kind of do some more conversation about the differences between the two, but just making sure like you're continuing to be like the loudest insurance person in the room. You need to be top of mind. So yeah, post videos on your social media. I love to do like these series of like, hey, we talk about 10 things you don't know about Medicare. Make that a 10 video series. I say put it on your social media, put it on your Facebook page and LinkedIn. Yeah, I think that's great content for networking partners that you should be trying to get during OEP, and great for your clients to see as well.
Absolutely. And you also have to keep in mind that this is posting it on Facebook. That's a really great way to also keep in contact with people. People will type questions, all that sort of stuff. Great way for you to keep interacting with those who follow your Facebook page. Also caretakers, the children and grandchildren that are also have influence in the benefits and stuff like that. They're seeing it, and then your competition's also probably doing it as well. So you want to make sure that if they're seeing their videos, they're at least seeing your videos too.
For sure. Now, seminars to educate current plan members. I love this. Everything we just talked about, like you should do in a follow-up appointment, you could do that like in a bulk follow-up appointment and do like anybody who enrolled, invite all your clients who enrolled in the United Healthcare Plan too, and say, come to the seminar, we'll teach you guys how to answer any questions you have, we'll teach you how to use your benefits, and just like have a rep come in and have the rep come and teach them how to use their benefits. But it's a really great way to like mass educate, be the resource, be the person, but like all the things that you do in a follow-up appointment, you can do that on a mass basis with all of your people at once.
Yeah, it casts a wide net.
It does.
It's a lot of people in, like I just said, the caretakers, the children. It allows more people to be involved in the conversation and more people to be educated all at once.
Well, think about it like this. If I have a friend that me and Sadie have the same insurance plan, I went through Joe Agent, she went through Jim Agent. Joe Agent is going to teach me how to use my plan. I'm going to say, Sadie, why don't you come with me to my agent? They're going to teach us. Guess who's going to be my agent's new client next year? So it's a great way to get referrals, a great way to stay in front of your people. Last but not least, blogs, newsletters. The more places you are, guys, the more places you're going to be. So call up your networking partners and offer to do a blog for them. Offer to be a portion of their newsletter so that their people understand exactly what's going on this time of year.
Absolutely. SMS also offers a free newsletter for those who are contracted with us. So if that's something you don't want to spend your time on, you don't have to.
You don't have to. We did the dirty work.
Yeah, we build it for you.
The last thing I have on here, guys, is to be available. I skipped one. Oh, we'll come back to that. Okay. I forgot to tell you.
Oh,
you're seeing it real time.
Okay.
The last thing I want to have here, guys, is to be available. I will tell you this. The days of being an agent and just like taking off the first few months of the year is not an option, especially right now where there is so much shakeup. There are so many questions. You have to make sure that you are still working, and it can't be like, oh, I'll call them back in a couple of days. You can't do that. You have to be available, especially during that first quarter. Big changes in their plans mean big questions. You need to be available for that.
Yeah, they don't want to feel like they've been ghosted.
Yeah.
They don't want to feel like, they don't want to feel like I'm like, do people know what ghosted is? I am a very young millennial.
Yeah, but you're on the younger side of millennial.
People don't want to feel like, again, basically you sold them and then you disappear. You're not there for anything else. Oh, they took vacation. They're not going to be back for the next couple weeks. Well, I need to figure this out right now because it's the beginning of the year. I need to get into the doctor right now. I need to use this benefit right now. You want to make sure that you are there whenever they're calling you, and they will be calling you.
I would say be aware of buyer's remorse. That's something what buyer's remorse is. Whenever you make healthcare is a huge decision, and they're financing their healthcare is a huge decision. Whenever they make this huge decision and trust in you and invest in you, and then they don't hear back from you, that anxiety will escalate and escalate and escalate. And that's when you get buyer's remorse. Buyer's remorse means that they're unhappy with their decisions. They're going to do whatever they can to make it on the plan they were on previously with the agent that they were on previously. You not answering the phone and you not being available, not responding to their emails, just even like going silent on social media. that is
Yeah.
not being available. So making
That's
sure
true.
you're continuing your efforts, returning those phone calls, avoiding the buyer's remorse. And I'll tell you this, one of our biggest campaigns we see agents run are what we called orphaned clients. And their clients, a client oftentimes will say, I feel orphaned when I don't hear from my agent within a year.
Yeah.
That's when they say, like, I need to move on if I don't hear from them within the year. So many people have not heard from their agents for a year plus. They're considered
Crazy.
orphans. Great for referrals. Be there so much for your clients that your clients have to talk about it.
Yeah. You know, that's a really great point. A lot of this is so emotional, whether
is
people
so
realize it or
emotion.
not. And so making sure that they are as comfortable as possible, especially if they've switched to a new plan that, you know, they went to a Medicare Advantage and all they've ever been used to is a Med Sup,
Right.
or switching to a different Medicare Advantage, or being with a different agent and having expectations for you. It's all about creating comfort
Right.
and making sure that they know that they're taken care of and they know that they're not in this alone.
For sure, absolutely. So ultimately, guys, you got this. Their quarter one is definitely going to look different compared to OEPs in the past. We very much say OEP used to be this thing that happened in the background. It was there if you needed it. We're not there anymore. You have to go on the defensive to have a good offense. But is it defense wins championships? That's what like dads say.
Okay.
Sports people.
I did ballet, so
I did ballet. Yeah, you did ballet. The defense wins championships. The same thing goes with what your insurance agency is going to look like this year. Schedule your follow-ups. Get in front of them. If you didn't schedule the follow-up, the best follow-up you need to do is like you never let a person leave your office until the next appointment is set. Now maybe you didn't understand that or believe in that during AEP, so now is the perfect time to say, hey, we didn't get to discuss everything, or there's stuff that I want to make sure that you know how to use your plan. I'm going to call you the second week of January. I need you in my office sometime in February, so make sure you set those expectations, schedule your follow-ups. Educate your clients, set the expectations. If they're finding it weird that they're hearing from you and they're like, ooh, what are they trying to sell me now? Then you didn't set the expectations properly. So get in there, educate your clients, set the expectations of what it's like to be your client, and then answer the freaking phone. Be there, return your phone calls. It doesn't, again, when I first started in the insurance industry, it genuinely was half of our agents we didn't hear from them until September. You can't do that anymore. You have to make sure there is no such thing as a busy season. It is all year round. Thank goodness it is. You know what I mean? We have a job all year round, but we just got to adjust to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys. So that is what we say. That is how you protect your business during OEP. Any questions, comments, concerns, threats, or promises, let us hear it. Any feedback you have, that's part of the comments and threats. Any feedback you have for today's presentation as well. We're really excited. Anything else that you guys want to hear about, learn about, listen about, let us know. Be expecting that follow-up email today. But
absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts of today?
Honestly, I'm just thinking about how OEP is the time period in which they get paid. Like they get to celebrate that. Yeah, they get to celebrate the hard work that they put into AEP. Just protect that stuff that you're celebrating.
Yeah, because there's nothing more awful than like you get paid and then you're like, oh, now I get a chargeback. And don't forget, guys, if somebody does move from a plan that you enrolled them to during OEP, that's actually a compliance violation called rapid disenrollment. So if you get too many rapid disenrollments, you will get called by your carrier and be like, what happened here? So like avoid rapid disenrollment. You guys made the right decision. Unless the client actually needs to move, then do what's best for your client. But just know if you write them during OEP and then another agent or a call center changes them you write them during AEP, call center or agent writes them during OEP, it's actually a thing against you for rapid disenrollment.
Yikes.
All right, guys, here is our contact information. Reach out to us if you have any questions. We have tons and tons of resources. Sadie's going to send out our favorites, but we have a lot more of OEP related resources, including our AMP program, Agent Marketing Portfolio, our quarter one newsletter that we have that is completely customized for you, the agent, and of course, just our team here to kind of help walk you through I think more so creating like what is your marketing strategy for 2023.
For sure.
Because it's going to look different. It's going to be so different this year, guys. All right. You guys have a fantastic rest of your day. We appreciate you guys.
And is this the last webinar until
Until the new year.
There we go. Well, then
Mhm.
happy holidays, everyone.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
I like that.
Thank you. Have a great one, guys. Thanks
Thank you.
again.